Is Emirates Airbus A380 economy class the best in the world? Join me on this 8-hour flight from Dubai to London Gatwick to find out. Emirates are probably best known for their flashy luxury cabins, especially first class. Plus, being based in Dubai, basically the poster child for over-the-top consumerism, helps add to that image. But whilst their first class is amazing, especially the fact that they have onboard showers, their business class seats are lagging behind the rest of the industry. Instead, it's their economy class which I reckon props up the airline above others. And the fact that half their fleet is the Airbus A380, one of the comfiest and quietest planes to fly on, definitely sweetens the deal. And if you've never been here, Dubai's Terminal 3 is absolutely massive. It's the largest airport terminal in the world by floor space, with the main B and C gate building being over a mile long and the satellite terminal being almost half a mile long. So basically, you might end up having to do a lot of walking here. I also noticed the food, and pretty much everything in Dubai, is very expensive. A plain croissant here costs 21 AED, which is £4.50 or almost $6 US. Despite the overpriced food though, it's a good airport, and in my opinion, better than their main Middle Eastern rival, Qatar Airways hub in Doha, because at least in Dubai you probably won't be stuck at a bus gate. Looking out the window whilst waiting to board, I noticed these engineers swapping out a wheel. Easy to forget just how big these planes are until you see someone standing right next to it. And if you're enjoying the video so far, please consider subscribing. My cat would love it if I hit 5k subscribers by the end of the year.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for waiting. We would like to invite first class passengers.
Boarding started on time, and I was surprised they do a pretty thorough security pat down at the gate. Now here's the route and stats for today's flight. We would leave about 30 minutes behind schedule, then fly 3,400 miles or 5,500 kilometers over Iran, Turkey and Europe before arriving at London Gatwick a few minutes early. The A380 Emirates use on this route actually only has two classes, as it's configured in Emirates' medium haul high density layout, which they use on slightly less premium routes like this one to Gatwick. If you fly to London Heathrow instead, you'll get a more premium plane with first class and maybe even premium economy too. The seats are some of the comfiest economy seats out there in my opinion. Legroom is good with a standard 32-inch of seat pitch and a big old storage pouch. You also get just an average pillow and blanket. I did notice the window seat only gets a single USB port for charging though, whilst the aisle seat and middle seat get one socket and two USB ports each. Not sure why there's such a mismatch, but bear that in mind if you plan on charging stuff. And lastly, the TV is massive and full of content. I'll cover it in more detail at 6:38 in this video. And just to go into a bit more detail on the exact layout Emirates are using for this plane, it's got 58 business class seats on the top deck and a whopping 557 economy class seats spread across both decks. Somewhat uniquely, some of those economy seats are on the upper deck in a more comfortable 242 layout instead of the 343 you'll find on the lower deck. The window seats up there also get a nice storage bin too, and I had the pleasure of flying in that cabin on my previous flight to Dubai. You can find my review of that flight in the top right corner, or the link in the description below. Back to this flight though, the pilots told us we're a bit delayed as there were 20 passengers connecting from Sydney, and their flight arrived late, just 40 minutes before this one was supposed to depart, so I imagine they had a pretty stressful transfer experience. But it is nice to know that if you're in a similar situation, there's a good chance they'll wait for you.
In the process of waiting for another couple of passengers to join us from a connecting flight inbound from Sydney. I believe it's the order of 20 odd. So we're just going to hang on for another 10 minutes or so while we wait for those passengers to join us. I do apologise for that. We'll do our best to minimize.
So as we pushed back and headed to the runway, the safety video started playing, and in their own words, it's no nonsense and a little bit dull. They even take a shot at other airlines by telling us that they won't break into dance or hire celebrities. I guess the focus on safety is admirable, but as a Gen Zer with attention span of a goldfish, I did find it a bit boring. Just look at Vietnam Airlines safety video for example, and tell me which one you'd rather watch.
Oxygen mask in cabin and toilets would drop automatically from the ceiling if
Ở giữa, hai cửa phía sau. Quý khách vui lòng chú ý cửa thoát hiểm gần nhất đối với mình. Xin lưu ý cửa thoát hiểm gần.
Now sit back as an impressive takeoff out of Dubai is coming up. And now for a quick overview of the Emirates in-flight entertainment system. It's pretty darn good, with one of the largest selections of movies and TV of any airline in the world. The only downside is the screen is a bit laggy. You can see how long it takes to respond after I tap the screen here, which is a bit annoying, and many airlines with newer screens are much snappier and responsive. So it is a sign that this cabin is a bit old and could do with an upgrade, but luckily Emirates are in the process of refurbishing many of their older aircraft, so hopefully it won't be an issue for too much longer. You can also watch live TV, which is cool, but the channel selection is a bit limited. And lastly, there's a magazine with a duty-free shop and a TV guide. Shortly after takeoff, menus were handed out, which I appreciate, as most airlines don't bother with a menu in economy. For the main course, the choices were coconut chicken curry or beef ragu. I went for the curry and it wasn't bad at all. The potato and quinoa salad and profiteroles for dessert were just average though. Then on the side you get a bread roll with butter, cheese and biscuits, an oat bar and a small chocolate. Of all the airlines I've flown in economy, this meal was definitely one of the most generous. And the metal cutlery makes it feel just a little bit fancy. And you'll find all of the toilets on the A380 are very spacious, and the crew keep them clean throughout the flight, but my only complaint is that when I went 40 minutes before landing they'd run out of toilet paper. Before landing, a second meal is served, and this was a little box of afternoon tea. 2 egg sandwiches, a scone with jam and clotted cream, and a box of strawberries and cream. I don't really like egg sandwiches, so I skipped that, but the rest was very good. I did think it was a bit weird though, having 2 separate dishes, which were basically just different formats of strawberries and cream. The starry sky lighting on the ceiling as they dim the cabin is a nice touch, which was a good thing as London was very foggy coming into land, so I couldn't see much of anything else. Just after landing, a message popped up asking whether I was satisfied for the flight, and I was satisfied, but sadly I couldn't let them know as the touchscreen stopped working for some reason. We arrived on time and got through Gatwick Airport quite quickly too, and since we sat near the front we were one of the first off. Emirates economy class is great, and definitely one of the best in the world, and the Airbus A380 is a great plane to fly on, also one of the comfiest in the world. The food was top notch and the seat is very comfy, and the TV screen is massive. The only real bad thing I could think to say is that it was quite expensive, but we were flying over Christmas, so it's not like Emirates was much more expensive than the other options, but it was still probably about £800 for the return flight. Also, I realised, even though the flight was pretty much perfect, the score isn't even 80%. That's just because value plays a big part in my ranking, and the flight was very expensive. So instead, I'm now also including my own personal ranking of every airline I've flown on this channel. The list definitely contains some personal bias, but as you can see, Emirates are now almost at the top. Another top tier airline is Etihad Airways, so click the link on the screen to see my review of their economy class. And if you made it this far, then thanks for watching and goodbye.